Welcome to another week of Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. We're very privileged this evening to have the St. Anne's Cup in studio with us, probably the biggest trophy in girls hockey by the look of things. And its new proud holder and coach, Brad Brook from Menlo Park. Welcome to the studio. Great to have you here, and thanks for bringing that wonderful piece of silverware up to Johannesburg for us to have a look at it.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was tough to get it away from St. Anne's, but they said they'd loan us for us.
Well, here it is. We'll send it back. And as always, joined by Bridget Key and Crinison Woodley. Good to have you both back in studio.
Good to be back.
Another wonderful week of hockey.
Yeah.
Right across the country. I think before we get going, perhaps talking about the St. Anne's Cup, I think, which we're really going to focus on with you, Brad. Just to remind all of our viewers back home, of course, that the national men's team this week are playing in a series of trials matches in Pretoria, starting tomorrow night at Hoërskool Elder Rain, 7 p.m. I think they've selected two squads, green versus gold, and those three matches will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, 7 p.m. All of it will be played and broadcast on the YouTube channel, the SuperSport YouTube channel, 7 p.m. each evening. Members of the public are welcome to go along. So as I say, tomorrow it is at Elder Rain, tomorrow on the 27th. And later on I think finishing at Tux on Thursday. So members of the public welcome. And, I think as we've been saying to people, get out there, support these national teams. If you're going to Takealot, one of the great partners that we have here at SuperSport Schools, you can still find only the white versions of the men's and women's shirts. So the green versions have been sold out. So down to the last white versions for the year. So really a great opportunity for our hockey community to support our national teams. Get out there and buy yourselves a men's or women's jersey.
I've got a great story about these jerseys. I was at a Springbok rugby game at Loftus, and I was wearing my South African hockey jersey because I didn't own a rugby jersey. And everyone said, "Oh, these are so nice." I said, "It's a hockey one." Everyone said, "Oh, I want the hockey one. It's better than the rugby one." So there we go.
There you go.
So get out in sport. So Brad, back down to the Midlands. This is obviously your second year at Menlo Park. Was this the first time you guys had played in the St. Anne's Cup, or was this your second visit?
No, so we're very fortunate to attend last year as well. Didn't have a great campaign. I think we ended up finishing 5th, but still it was an exceptional tournament then. And Mornay and the team at St. Anne's decided to grow to 12. Obviously invited a couple more schools, and once again put on a fantastic tournament and thoroughly enjoyable. I know the parents really enjoyed it, the festivities. But great hockey all around, full matches, and some really, really good hockey on show, especially quarterfinals and so on. Really good.
St. Anne's just a great setup with the two AstroTurfs, and as you say, for parents, I mean, the Midlands and Hilton is just such a wonderful place to be for the weekend. And obviously for a lot of people, that's where the IPTs will be getting hosted in June, July. So seeing a lot of wonderful hockey action down there. And Bridget, you watched a bit of the tournament. I know that Menlo did lose to St. Anne's early on in the playoff rounds, and we'll get through sort of how you progressed to the final. But you clearly came back, and because you're here with their trophy. But what else happened in the tournament? Any other results sort of stick out for you?
I think it was an interesting one. You had the top and the bottom as such. You got Noordheuvel, its first tournaments that they've actually attended this season so far, and they finished off 9th, which is nice. Bethlehem Voortrekker also had a great run there, finishing 11th, which you expect. And then Woestergym also travelling all the way down. So nice for them to have a
nice cross-section of schools from all over the country.
So.
Yeah.
That does make for a nice tournament.
Exactly. And then up at the top, your top 7 places make sense if you look at the season so far, particularly in your guys' space and the Menlo space. But then across that, you got Our Lady of Fatima, who have done really well this season. Well. I don't like talking about it. They did beat St. Mary's Kloof, but anyway. No, not again. Oh, no, they did beat them again.
They did beat them again.
Yes,
I know
they did.
You hate talking about it.
They did.
And interestingly, I think Fatima and yourselves also were second in both your pools and yet progressed quite deeply into the tournament. So it just shows you in those pool games, they really were tight, could have gone either way. And in fact, those results almost were sort of, finished better than some of the teams that came first in their pools.
Yeah, very much so. It was an interesting run to take it from there if you look at it in that perspective. And I think very unfortunate for the teams that obviously finished top, but we're not complaining.
Yeah, look, and it's an interesting one. I mean, when you get into that tournament hockey and you're going into quarterfinals, you want to finish top of your pool because you want second, but sometimes getting second, as it turned out in this tournament, gives you a trickier fixture. So who did you get in that quarterfinal?
We had DGC, So Durban girls who scored
Chardonnay and her girls.
Chardonnay and the girls. They, it was a really good game. I think Chardonnay will feel a little bit hard done by. It could have went either way, but we managed to sneak a 2-1. And very happy with the result. And the girls put on some good hockey from both sides.
And they were runners-up last year, DGC. So, they've played the tournament. They know the style. They knew what to come out with. So a tough game for you guys that you were proud to take away with the win in the end.
And that left them, I think they ended up playing 5th and 6th with Durban Girls College, didn't they?
St Anne's.
St Anne's.
St Anne's, Durban Girls College, played 5 and 6. St
And
Anne's
that went
shootouts.
to shootout as well. So it really was tight all the way down.
All the way through. I mean, the other shootouts, St Mary's, Kloof, Unisi taking the win there for 3 and 4. Unisi cleaning up a little bit. Maybe St Mary's running out of legs at the end. But there were other results, particularly in the quarters and the pool games, where a lot of shootouts, a lot of draws and so forth. So, tough competition, which is nice to see.
Interesting for me, Calvin. I mean, you speak about, you guys having dropped some points against St Anne's early on in the tournament, but then finishing second in your pool and progressing from there. I mean, tournaments are a little bit like that. You want to peak at the right time. We see, obviously there were some schools who came out hot early on in the pools, but then had sort of played their best hockey going into the playoffs. I mean, would you say that there was anything that in your preparation that made you get better each day? I mean, have you, in terms of conditioning, or how have you prepped for this tournament?
Yeah, so we are very fortunate. We have quite a small athletics program at Menlo.
Must have the longest preseason in hockey.
So so we've got a lot of girls who are athletes or used to be athletes. So conditioning side of things run very well by a guy named Wayne Coldman, strength conditioning coach for a very well-known sprinter in South Africa as well. So we're very blessed to have him working on our program. Him and Sikle do a fantastic job with the girls. We played 7 full games in 6 days.
Sure.
So definitely, but we still had legs. The girls were fresh. And I think that played a massive part. Just going back to the St Anne's game, got a huge compliments from a lot of neutrals saying what an exciting brand of hockey it was. And both teams just was exceptional and easy to watch. And that was exciting. Obviously, I was very sour at the time and I didn't really take the compliments in, but later in retrospect, very, very happy. And it was a great game of hockey.
The first game?
That's that first game. We only played them then. And obviously, we beat them at the St Mary's tournament. So Morne got his back, and it was a fantastic game. And I think at the end of the day, I think both of us were just happy with that the girls both played well. And I think we can't ask for more than that. So very happy with that. And the girls just, in terms of our league in Pretoria and all the tournaments we've played, and we play really tough competition. And I think that sort of preps you for this time of the season where we've got some big derbies coming up as well. We've played some big derbies already as well. So it's been just sort of iron sharpens iron, and we keep going, and every week is tough games, and that's good for us.
And you spoke about St Mary's. I think you were in the quarterfinals at St Mary's. So, that's a good tournament, St Mary's, which is tough given
Very
the number
much
of teams. And, we talk about just what 12 teams can do and how there can be depth all the way down. Tell us a little bit about your season since then, and what have you been working on particularly with your squad? So
St Mary's, we finished top of our pool as well, and going a lot of confidence going into it, and unfortunately ran into a very strong side in the quarters, Parkham. And we got bullied a little bit there. And the girls, we realised that there's certain factors that need to come into it, and it's sisterhood, it's that togetherness, it's that team vibe, it's that synergy, and we maybe lacked that a bit. So the girls have really gone back to the drawing board and worked on that. And look, fitness is always a thing that we're going to try and rely on, and if we can match our technical ability to our physical ability, I think that makes a big difference because the girls are willing to learn, and tactically they're learning and getting better. But I think that's a big focus for us. It's just coming together, and we've always said that the 5 is not as strong as 1, and I think it was a big emphasis for the girls to come back as 1 this tournament, and that was important for us. And you'll see it might look like we're fist pumping, but that's not what we're doing. It's showing the unity, and for us, that's what we're trying to grow.
You talk about that union. I suppose a lot of that is as opposed to sort of individuals trying to take it in a particular direction, just rather looking for the connections. And we spoke earlier in the season, I think it was Devin van der Merwe who said the thing he really wants to see more of in South African hockey is connections between players, moving the ball around, understanding that often if they make the good pass and run into the space, they're actually the most dangerous person on the field. And if you can get that mentality going, just how important it is. And I think the successful teams that we see are the ones, we talk about Sachs and Paul Ruiz from last. Those are 2 teams, for example, JP last week, that just make those connections so much better, move the ball amongst each other and play as an outfit as opposed to, those game breakers are always important, but
No, 100%. Yeah, moving the ball is pass and move mentality is one of our core principles. And yeah, it's something that we had to get in because obviously when you think you're faster than everyone else, you just want to run. But yeah, once we realized that we can stretch the field, create a bit of space and connect, we're a completely different monster. And the girls showed it this weekend and we're very, very happy.
Again, just speaking to the growth that's happened at Menlo over the season, that you've slowly gained in confidence as you've moved into all these other fixtures, for your girls. It hasn't always been easy. I'll say that it's been tough. It's been a journey, but the girls have sort of realised that the harder we work, the better we get. And whether it be our morning gym sessions every week, whether it be the conditioning, whether it be going to elite, or whether it be training, the harder we train, the more we push each other. It's going to only get easier from there. And with that mentality of training should be harder than any game we play in. So once we instill that.
The one interesting thing, and you're just talking about that in this result, there are so many results we can't remember them all, so Bridget, we're going to excuse you. But the interesting thing in girls hockey, like in boys hockey, we're seeing this clear dominance. Jeppy up here in the north, Sachs and Paul Roos down the south. KZN's a bit all over the show. Anyone can win, it seems, on any sort of given weekend. But in the girls hockey this year around the country, we expected Rennish just to dominate. I don't think they've won a tournament. Collegiate come and win one. Menlo go and win at St Anne's. Polchim have surprised us. I mean, they didn't just surprise you in the quarters. They've surprised us in terms of some of, go to Bloemfontein and win back-to-back. What do you think it is in the girls hockey at the moment that it really could just go any way?
I think everyone else has realised that obviously Oranje was the school to catch and still our hockey powerhouse. And yet everyone realised that we have to, if we want to get like that, it has to be competitive. And schools have gone, it's not just I don't want to say that it's still only school sport. It's becoming more than that. And I think that players are realising the more they put in the hard work, the extras, the extra hockey, the JHLs, the PSIs. And all the rest of it is, it's just there's so much hockey now that...
I've been thinking a lot about this with the girls' hockey perspective. I mean, I have a theory as well that I think so much emphasis is placed on that St Mary's tournament at the start of the season. And I think that's where we kind of make our minds up about who the favourites are and who the good schools are. But it turns out that the 25-minute games, I mean, it's not really an accurate reflection of who the top sides are, because I think when you're playing full games in a full game tournament, there's a lot of other aspects that come into it. And I think that as coaches, you have to be well prepared, because often we see results move in that third and fourth chukker, and so I think there were schools who were out the blocks early and focused their prep on St Mary's, but I think the schools who have gone for the long term, let's look at our program over a whole season, have been the ones that have come out top in the last couple of weeks.
And obviously those 20-minute games at St Mary's, I mean, they're great. It's wonderful prep, but it's not always a true reflection of what's taken place. So, Brad, look, it's been wonderful having you in studio. We'd love to chat for, go on and on. There's some girls you brought along from your team that we're going to talk to in the second segment when we're back. But right now, it's time to go for a commercial break. Welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. Two of the winning team, Menlo Park from St Anne's, you bought their trophy. Back with us, Kalia Potgieter on my left, Jeanette Janssen van Vuren on my far left. Great to have you both in studio with us, and we really appreciate you coming out on a Monday evening. Lucky you boarders, so they let you out. You didn't have to get anybody's approval to let you out the house tonight.
No. Oh, it's not every day you can go on TV. So.
Guys, we're happy, and I know you're in the middle of exams, so we really do appreciate you coming down. Wonderful to go down to the Midlands, always nice to tour there and play hockey. I'm sure you both played hockey there, but this time you come back with what must be the biggest trophy in girls hockey. We certainly haven't seen a trophy of that size in girls hockey. Nice weekend.
Yeah, cold, but nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. The atmosphere was nice, the people were nice. Everything was just like...
Winning does make
nice
it a bit
too.
easier.
Yeah.
Winning makes it easier. So going into the tournament, Carlia, what was sort of, where did the team sort of think they could finish? I mean, you always want to win the tournament, but what were you thinking as a team?
Yeah, well, I guess we were just hoping to at least get to the semi-finals, but winning was what we were hoping for.
And Jeanette, going down, I mean, in the pool games, you lost to St Anne's in the pool, so you're second in the pool. Does that give a little bit of motivation for the rest of the tournament? What how do you reset after that? Because you're obviously now going into a quarter-final, perhaps against a stronger team than you might have wanted to play, although as it turned out, it looked like everyone was quite even in those quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think it's always the most dangerous to play against a team that just lost. So I think playing against Durban Girls was definitely, we wanted to prove ourselves that we can do this, and yeah, it was just, we wanted to go out and give it our all.
And you certainly did that, and obviously came away with the win in that quarterfinal. That moved you on to the semi-finals against a really tough outfit.
Yeah.
One that you'd played a bit, or already beaten this year. Eunice, you had beaten them already this year, hadn't you?
Yeah.
So that obviously gave you a bit of confidence going into the semi-final.
Yeah, I guess, but we still knew it was going to be a tough game because Eunice is a really strong side. So.
And your goalkeeper did particularly well in that game because I think she had to clear a lot of goals. Kloppers is her name. And
Yeah, Annika.
Annika Kloppers. I mean, she's had a great season. She got goalkeeper of the tournament at St. Anne's. Well worth it. Hey, did she have a good game on that Eunice game?
Yo, Annika was...
Brilliant.
I was so proud of her. I was hugging her afterwards, Annika, thank you.
Yeah, and
The goalkeepers are so important, aren't they? Especially in those situations, but right through the game.
Yeah, and she also came back from an injury, so it was really nice to have her with us. And yeah.
Always
injury
good.
was she coming back from? It was when we played THL, and it was something with her hip or.
Probably sliding or something on the ground, and tough for goalkeepers.
Tough out there for goalkeepers, and that obviously took you through into the final. We had the coach on here earlier. He was telling us a bit about what he's been trying to do with the program this year. But what was his clear message to you as a team going into that final? Do you remember? Or do you just not even listening at that stage? You're so dialed into your own game, and you just let him talk and let him think that he's getting through to you? Or?
Yeah, he said we should just play our hockey and, our...
Yeah, I think he was it's not just about winning, it's about playing good hockey. And I think that really stood out to me because it's not, we need to play the hockey that we play and just enjoy it, and then the rest will come. So I think that really eased the nerves.
And what is the hockey that you play? As a team, what is it you're trying to do this season? When you speak about the hockey we play, how do you see that game? Without giving too much away, you've got a big fixture against Affies this week. So without telling Affies what to expect, what is it what is Menlo Park hockey?
I think it's just building hockey and not forcing passes and staying patient and trusting the process and not being too eager, just trusting the process, going forward with patience, and
Sounds like good advice, Kristen.
No, for sure. And we've heard a lot about the mental side of things being spoken about, with your coach and now with the two of you. I mean, would you say that your training sessions and the way you've prepared has led you to this point? I mean, did your training sessions change a little bit the week before the tournament? What were you focusing on?
Well, I have to say we do quite a lot of conditioning.
Yes.
Well, not a lot, not too much, right amount. But I think we work hard, and that really brought us where we are now. The hard work, the good coaching, the support we have. And
a lot of video analysis? Do you guys get a lot of feedback video-wise?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you talk about that physical. I mean, one thing I think if you talk about people around South Africa, we know Menlo Park for athletics. I mean, one of my favourite things is all these athletic teams. Those you go on beach tours in December where they go on holiday to do athletics. Other than Menlo Park, I mean, I love their music videos that they do. Are either of you athletes? Are you part of that athletics setup? Were you athletes?
Yeah, I was doing athletics, but this year I decided to focus a little bit more on hockey and academics.
And what as an athletics, what was your discipline?
Yeah.
What event did you participate in?
I did hurdles, long and short,
Okay.
and 400 every now and then.
400. That'll stand you in good stead on the hockey field, right? And yourself, much of an athletics background, or really just been hockey?
No, I've never done athletics. Only for inter-house and those type of things. So
Okay.
yeah.
So more Yeah, so
More
all
for
your
fun.
athleticism just comes from running around the farm. I mean, you're a farmer's daughter from Boshoff.
Yeah.
So that's where you grew up, out in the sort of the northern Free State or northern Cape. Is that Northern Cape or Northern Free? No, it's in the Free State.
Yeah, it's in the Free State. Yeah.
Okay,
It's next
so-
to the Northern Cape.
And also another farmer's daughter from Groblersdal. So something, those kids that grow up on the farms just make such wonderful athletes, don't they? And Bridget, Groblersdal's got another sort of well-known South African hockey player that comes out of those parts. So clearly there's a bit of talent there.
Yeah, Nicolene Blanche is from that part of the world.
Absolutely.
So, hopes and aspirations for you to be a national captain one day, maybe.
Go and see her. So it's a bit of the battle of Groblersdal this weekend as we see you taking on the Uffies girls with her as the coach there. So I'm sure the whole of Groblersdal will be, they're going to have to pick sides this weekend. Going into an Uffies fixture this weekend, I mean, you spoke about coming off a loss and you the most dangerous side. Hopefully, coming off a big win and carrying that trophy around is not going to have the opposite effect as you go into what's going to be a very competitive fixture with an Uffies team that have beaten him this year, that have played some really good hockey.
They just came off a win against Midstream, 3-0, so they're also going to be filled with confidence. It's going to be a tough match for you girls.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's obviously a big one. It's a proper derby, isn't it?
Yes, but I guess the key is just to stay humble and just keep playing the hockey that you play. And
Absolutely. I mean, it seems to work for you, sticking to this pattern and playing your own game. And we're going to talk about a few of the boys' fixtures later. I have a theory about the coaches who let you play your hockey as opposed to trying to adjust your hockey for the opposition.
Yes. No, I mean, I think it's important. We heard from Sia last week, the JP guys, I was sort of challenging him on why JP didn't close up shop in that last chucker, and he said, you got to let the guys play, which I think is really good when you've got the players to be able to trust in those scenarios, But I wanted to put the girls on the spot and ask them a difficult question. We've been nice to them. So, I mean, the girls' hockey in Pretoria has really gone from strength to strength year on year. You've got Waterkloof, Menlo, Gasfontein, Uffies.
Yeah.
I mean, toughest side to play against, and which win would mean the most to you?
Yo. I don't know. I think each game is really different from.
Yes. Would you say the biggest rivals for Menlo are in Pretoria?
Your biggest derby.
I could answer that
Which is
for
the
my
one
school.
you really want to win.
Yeah.
Carla, you answer.
I don't know. All of them.
You just want to
I
beat
was
them
at
all.
Waterkloof.
Yeah, I think it's
I have to
Waterkloof.
say
I
a big
think that-
competition.
Have you played them yet?
Oh, multiple times.
This year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so in both of your careers today, I mean, you've had longish hockey careers, but also quite short, in that you've obviously both been playing for a while, but you're still young. Is there one particular person in each of your lives who's really made a big difference to your hockey career, a person who particularly supports you, or, is there anyone that you would call out and say, that's the one person that's made the most difference in my hockey career, and maybe tell us why?
I think definitely it's not just like my parents, it's my whole family, my brother and my mom and my dad. They really offer up a lot for me to be here, and when I'm going through a tough time, I know that they're always there, and they really just bring out the best in me and tell me, just play your game, don't be stressing, and I know they will be proud of me no matter how I perform or,
Your brother's still at school?
No, my brother is 21 this year. Yeah.
Okay. And a sportsman?
Yeah, he played rugby a bit for the Griquas.
Oh,
But
wow.
his shoulder,
Brutal game. Should have been a hockey player, right? And yourself, Kalia?
Yeah, I would also say my family, because every time we play hockey and they can't be there, they send screenshots of the SuperSport schools that they're watching, and they're just always there to support me. And I think also coming from Limpopo to Pretoria, they also had to offer up a lot for me to be here.
And did they get through to watch a lot of your games?
My mum is almost at all of them, so I'm really grateful for
She's
her.
the number one fan.
Yeah, certainly.
They tend to be mothers, I'm sure. I'm sure she likes the excuse to get off the farm and come to
for
Menlo
sure.
Park. There's some nice things in and around the Menlo area, isn't there, for her to do?
There you go,
That's-
Calvin. I mean, both girls coming from farming backgrounds, remote areas, but their families get to watch them playing
On SuperSport schools, yeah, and I'm glad to hear they understand all the functionality. What's happening? Does the family WhatsApp group get a lot of your scores and your videos?
I send the link out before the game, and,
There we
and
go.
I send photos of them watching it on TV, and it's just really sweet.
No, that's
SuperSport
cool.
schools fans, we're going to have to send them a little gift pack to say thank you.
It's good to hear that they're there. You're both in grade 11, so you're both back for next year, which is obviously great for Menlo Park hockey. Are there any other grade? How many of you are there that'll be back next year?
We have a grade 9 and a grade 10 in our team,
Wow.
and then also a few other grade 11s, which is great.
So maybe from that quarterfinal at St Mary's, you're going to be lifting the trophy at St Mary's and St Anne's, and next year's a big year. It could be a very exciting year for Menlo hockey.
I think big things are ahead, and I'm excited to see you.
We don't want to put too much pressure on you and the coach. We probably did that to Renish at the beginning of the season after they'd come off a very similar season last year. So, look, girls, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Really appreciate that you took some time out on a Monday evening in the middle of exams. Neither of you are writing tomorrow, are you?
Here I am. I'm writing and counting.
Oh, don't worry. That'll be don't worry. Grade 11 accounts, I think, is still manageable. So we really appreciate you both coming through. All the very best of luck for the remainder of the season. Big game against Uffies this weekend, and hopefully you come out on top in the Battle of Groblersdal. We really look forward to that. And we're going to be back after the break talking about some of the more the derby results from around the country this past weekend. Welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. It's wonderful talking to the coach and those girls from Menlo Park. We just love having coaches and the young hockey players in studio, don't we?
I think that not only are we growing the ability of our hockey players, but we're also growing their knowledge. I think it's so good to see, just in maybe not so much on air when the kids are a bit nervous, but to chat to them casually. They understand the game, which I think is testament to the good coaching we have going on in schools at the moment.
I mean, I think back to early days in schoolgirl hockey. You wouldn't necessarily be able to chat to someone about a deep press or a outlet and what style you're going to play. Coaching was very simple: get out there and play. And now all of them are so attuned with the game, so attuned with the tactics. It's fascinating.
And maybe that's why in this girls' hockey, we've been talking about there's no clear favourite, there's no school. We are seeing it a bit in the boys this year, but in the girls' hockey, there's no team that's just dominating every tournament and that. And maybe there's just so much awareness around all the teams that there's just not that easy game. And when they're evenly matched, it really can go either way. And we're seeing actually shootouts becoming sort of more the decider of tournaments than anything else in the girls.
No, definitely. And I think also into that, if I just think of all the fixtures this weekend that have happened, you're getting unusual results left, right and centre, as well as results that were expected. But the standard of the hockey across the board is phenomenal. And I think that's testament to the coaching, to the playing, to what's been implemented.
And a bit about what Brad's spoken about was just, I think it's the one thing we've commented on before in girls hockey as well, is the level of conditioning that we're seeing. The last couple of years, we've really seen the conditioning levels in girls hockey in South Africa move up.
I think that's what's improved the quality of the game in the girls space. We're seeing, a lot more of the ball moving at good pace. That comes from the strength training that schools are doing now. And almost every school employing a strength and conditioning coach. Menlo kids spoke about it as well. It's great for our sport. I think I'm hoping that we're going to see this play out at the interprovincial tournaments where teams are getting better every year, and the quality of those tournaments will keep getting better as well.
I also think something that's, and maybe it's to the Take-A-Lot Mizuno boots that I'm running around in, but is the equipment. You're not getting as many injuries. Like in the old days, shin splints used to be massive. And now, kids can play more hockey. They're less prone to injury. They've got the conditioning in them. It's all because of the ability to sustain lots of games.
Yeah. Listen, that conditioning in this game is just so important, isn't it? And everyone who watches it, and sometimes when you're at it live, you just really realize how quickly they're moving, how much hard work they're putting in. Often you're watching it on screen and you're only seeing the person on the ball, but it's all the off-the-work ball and everything else that's taking place. But perhaps getting into this last weekend, and maybe let's start down in the Eastern Cape. It was a big game. DSG Makhanda had 2 games last week, and quite a significant game last week as well for them against Pearson.
Yes, Abigail Holden got her 100th cap. So Holderness, sorry. So, her sister Lucy got the 50 before, and that game against Pearson, which they got a 2-1 win. It's just brilliant to see caliber of hockey being played, but equally recognition of players that have been around for a long time. So Abigail getting 100th, so congratulations to her.
Absolutely.
And DSG just on a winning wicket at the moment. They're doing so well. They got a 7-0 win against Clarendon.
7-0 against Clarendon, which has been a good outfit. So that was really not probably not a surprise win, but certainly a surprise result.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Clarendon seemed to have struggled a little bit this season. There was another big result a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I can't quite recall it now, but we spoke in one of our very first shows about Greg Beeling and the legacy he had there. So I'm pretty sure they'll pull themselves up again next season, and we'll see them come out stronger.
Yeah, I think they're in a building phase as well. They lost a lot of grade 12s last year, so they no doubt will bounce back next year.
And I mean, you're talking about that. Pearson also lost 2 games last week. They lost to Collegiate 4-0. That Collegiate side have really come on in the last couple of weeks, and you've been talking about these teams that just get better as the season goes by, Chris, and we're seeing them, 4-0. That's a good result in anyone's books.
Yeah, I mean, I think that St Mary's tournament is very much pre-season. That's early March, when that season's happening, or mid-March. And now we're seeing that some of those teams just maturing, as they get later into the season, more contact time with their coaches. It's been a concern of mine, Calvin. I talk about this in the boys' game as well, that we're playing our biggest games before we've even started the season. And so I'm not sure that it's periodized correctly in terms of our training and how we, in the past, all these festivals used to be pre-season festivals. Now they full on. You can't go undercooked to any of those.
Middles, maybe if you know anyone senior in education, you can do something about that. I'm not sure if you know anyone. But, you talk about that, and, the other thing that's quite impressive for me on this collegiate side and the DSG, and we're seeing it in certain teams, a number of teams who we clearly battle to score, and we're going to talk about a few that we've seen battle to score. This collegiate team are not one of them, because 4-0 against collegiate, they follow that up with 9-0 against Union High, 13 goals in a week, a lot of goals. So clearly they understand, where the goals are and how to get the ball in the goals.
Yeah, and I think that Tony Marks was a phenomenal striker. She knows how to hit a ball. So she will have a lot of work going in there, as will their coach, Michael Abrams. They both ran great lines when they did play hockey. So no doubt they're going to be implementing that.
Yes.
Knowledge that they have, their experience as coaching and striking lines.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to coach Michael when he was a schoolboy in the EP teams, and him and his older brother Clyde. Clyde played for South Africa. I mean, they were so good going forward, good hands, lots of speed, and again, he's probably allowing those girls to play, which we've seen the coaches saying.
It's about what Brad was saying earlier in the show, and you see the results, absolutely. Yeah. Finishing up in the Eastern Cape, Hudson Park 3, Framesby 2, tight encounter. So good to see a tight encounter. Most of the performances there last week weren't that close. Well, I suppose DSG Pearson 2-1.
Yeah. No, nice game. I mean, Hudson Park, a traditional hockey side, they have a great girls program. Framesby likewise. Framesby got a big rugby fixture this weekend against Pearson, so that's also going to be a good rugby hockey derby, Framesby Pearson. So one to watch out.
So we'll see that this weekend. Lots of action in the Eastern Cape. Moving all the way north, and let's go all the way up into Northerns. The Garsfontein team continue to impress. They came off a very good 1-0 win against St Mary's last week. 3-0 against Menlo Park. Menlo Park, who've obviously go on later in the week to go and win down at St Anne's, but taking a significant loss against this Garsfontein team that really have a number of players that have impressed us greatly this year.
And fascinating enough, one of the players made mention of it. One of the hardest teams to beat is a losing team, and maybe that's testament to Menlo strategic coming
Bounce
off a
back ability.
bounce back, exactly. Bounce back off a
Absolutely.
3-0.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
3-0
I'm
loss.
not sure it's a word, but it's always the phrase. Yeah, so, but Garsfontein just continuing to play really
Yeah.
good hockey, and they're having a very, very good season. Similarly, Uffie's 3-0 over Midstream. Uffie's having a very solid
Yeah.
season, and as we said, that's another big derby this weekend. Maybe the girls couldn't pick their big derby. We certainly thought Uffie's was right up there for them, so that's going to be a big one this coming weekend.
Yeah,
and
I think-
Uffie's coming in there off a good win against Midstream.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fascinating derby this weekend. And Uffie's also just growing from massive strength to strength. They started slow at St Mary's, and they have just continued their escalation. At All Girls, they had a great campaign, they had a really good run, and they've continued that through. They got that win against Paarl, so just seeing a good strike for them, which is really nice.
Yeah, well, what I'm glad to see, because I suppose there is a little bit of a fear of that playing so many tournaments in a year takes the real value out of those big derbies. When you consider those derbies with over 40 rugby, hockey, if you add the girls and boys and rugby, probably over 50, 60 fixtures over a 2-day period. There's something special about representing your school like that. And the girls play a lot of tournaments in comparison to the boys.
And obviously for them, the really cool thing about that is it is when they're back in those derbies, it's when all the family, all the friends, everyone
absolutely.
is there. They often play at tournaments where there's no, there's a couple of parents
you're
might
touring.
be traveling with, but the whole school's not there supporting them. And I think that's one of the great things we're seeing in Hyundai Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
Just these massive audiences. I was very privileged to have been down in Paarl this last weekend and watched at Klein Boys High when Boys High took on Paul Roos Gymnasium, and just to see an absolutely packed Astro just does bring that magic, doesn't it?
How was the queue for the pancakes, Colin?
The pancakes queue is not as long as it should have been, because the pancakes were really good on Friday night at Klein Boys High. I followed them up with 8 the next day at Boys High itself at
I didn't eat them all
Brookstraat.
yourself.
I think I shared 1 or 2 with my brother, and Sput Smith had arrived to commentate
Okay,
the rugby
so
the
he
next day. I
also-
gave Sput 1 or 2 for breakfast, but it just wonderful atmosphere though. As
And
you
they
say,
host
just-
so well down there.
Oh,
So.
whether we were Klein Boys High for hockey or Brookstraat for the rugby the next day, those Paul boys, it's just a wonderful place, and it's the first time I've been down there watching, but it was really great. But finishing up in Northerns, Waterkloof 5, Swartkorp, probably an expected result, nothing unexpected there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Waterkloof also played at St Anne's Cup, so they went in on a nice win there, and they came 7th at St Anne's Cup, so they'll be disappointed with that result. But, they've had a good season so far.
And perhaps probably my result of the weekend from the derbies, if not, one of the things we still got to decide on before we finish the sort of insert here this evening is sort of girls' Hyundai performance of the week.
Yeah.
Certainly Menlo Park winning the tournament are in, but, with a shout. Stellenberg 3, Herschel 2. That really must be the sort of result that no one was expecting this season. And after the Stellenberg boys had done so well last
Against
weekend,
Bishop.
this week it was the turn of the girls.
Absolutely. I think that they had a great run there. Stellenberg, they got 3 cracking goals in. Herschel, nothing to be sniffed at. Remember, they came 2nd at the Girls' Challenge.
Yep.
So they've been on a good wicket.
No, they've been playing great hockey.
Yes, and Stellenberg, not a school that you would think would compete against your traditional sort of hockey schools, but they really are very good.
I'm not sure they would.
Or they would disagree with me.
They've had a very solid hockey performance, especially amongst the girls for a very long time down at Stellenberg. But again, a really big result and a great win that for them. Wrapping up down there, Polchum 3, Parelfilet 1, probably a result. This Polchum is a bit of a machine. We even heard the Menlo Park girls or the Cope Brad speak about just how tough an outfit they are and how hard you have to be to participate against them.
Anya Swanepoel getting a nice hat-trick there. So, we've spoken about her before.
Absolutely.
Top player, so,
And Rhenish, I think Paul girls really caught this Rhenish team on a hot streak now, 8-0, sort of what we'd been expecting from them.
Yeah, another hat-trick, Duplessis just cleaning up there. So
such a fine player.
Yeah.
So it's good to see them getting probably the results that they would want to be seeing. Fairmont 2, DF Milan 2. That's a big derby in that part of the world.
DF Milan
probably both go home disappointed with the draw. Both
true.
would have liked to win it. So that's
DF
hockey.
Milan lost 8-0 against St Cyprian's. So I think they'll be disappointed over the weekend. a draw and a loss of that nature is not great. And they've also in a rebuilding phase in their hockey, so they're working
Did
to
Fairmont
get
not
back.
win the Easter Festival down there?
The
co-ed.
co-ed,
The
co-ed
co-ed, yes,
festival,
they did.
yes,
They did. Yeah. So I mean,
So they've
DF
got a
Milan
great
would.
hockey
So
DF
good
Milan
result
would
for
be-
DF Milan
yeah.
probably in the end there. So and probably lastly in the KZN girls Spa Mvoti and Utukela regional tournament, Wartburg Kirchdorf beating Domino
Dominic
Servet School in the
Yeah.
final 1-0. So just another wonderful
Yeah.
episode of that Spa tournament to just
And properly, should I say, development hockey in the sense it was played on grass at Ladysmith High School. So, a team like Wartburg are going to go down to the finals at St Mary's Kloof on the 26th, 27th of July for the
that's for the KZN,
the KZN
Spa finals.
regional finals.
And obviously that'll all be on
Astro.
SuperSport Schools on
And
Astro,
yes,
and on SuperSport Schools on 216.
but I mean,
so.
what an
What an
opportunity,
opportunity.
for them.
Well,
So
it's
very exciting.
another week of incredible hockey in the girls' circuit. Tournaments, still one tournament, obviously in the St Anne's Cup, but lots of great derbies, and we'll be back after the break to talk about the boys' derbies from this last weekend. And welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. As we go into the last segment of the show, just to wrap up a bit about boys hockey. It feels like it's really been a week of a lot of girls hockey this past weekend, but there were some significant derbies around the country, Moodles, and perhaps one of the biggest derbies, and probably the game, my guess is that St Albans would want to win all season.
Yes,
Was this
absolutely.
past weekend? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, St Albans Boys High, the Battle of Pretoria there. The two prominent English hockey schools in Pretoria going up against each other. It was always going to be a tough challenge for St Albans with such a young team this year. 6 under 16 boys, and in that mix of 2 of which are still under 15. So, a tough game, but the St Albans guys were so well prepared for that game. They dominated from the
going
start.
into it, Pretoria boys had probably the better of result. I mean, Pretoria boys had really had some good results going into and St Albans perhaps not as good as they would have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, the St Albans teams got better and better each week. They started off this after their holidays with a good win over Clifton, and then went down narrowly 1-0 to Gasfontein in a closely contested game. And then this really was, very happy for the coaching staff. You put them on the spot in the first show saying they need to produce some results, but clearly, the game plan was executed to perfection against Pretoria boys. The level of detail that went into the preparation. Boys, I have arguably one of the best keepers in the country, McManaman in goals.
Certainly, he's a wonderful keeper. Isn't
Brilliant
he? Big
shot
boy.
stopper, great off the set pieces, and so what Guy did with the boys this past week, they trained with 2 keepers in the goals the whole week. And
So they had to move the keeper rather than moving the ball.
yeah, and they had to boys had to learn to for placement, shooting in the sides, and ends up St Albans scored 3 penalty corners because I don't know if that's a direct result of training with the 2 keepers. The first one, I think we got lucky.
Yeah.
The other 2, Will Hewitt, under 16 boy, scored all 3. Hit the sideboard with both of the other 2. So
It's a son of
executed.
Antwerp.
Yes,
Dad Ant must have been very happy on the sidelines there.
very proud. I think it was a happy day in the Hewitt household.
I think maybe significantly, I've watched quite a few teams. Hilton twice drawing with Pretoria boys and other really good hockey sides that can't get past McManaman.
Yes.
And even at the PCD, they've really
Absolutely.
struggled at penalty corners against them. So for young Hewitt to get 3 against that keeper and against that defence, which have been so good, and of course Colin Fielding, being part of that Pretoria boys, he knows his way around, setting a defence and coaching the keeper, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a role that he has within South African hockey circles of coaching goalkeepers, and Colin's extremely technical. So the boys, our guys, are well coached. They knew what to expect. But I think,
well done to
well done
Rosa
to-
Guy and the boys in St Albans. That's really a significant win. 3-1 in the end to St Albans, so really well done there, and certainly going to be when we vote for that Boys Sunday performance of the week. It's going to be, we might have to go up against, because we know where he's going. But, it might have to be you and I voting. But Uffy's 3, Kes 3, Kes and Uffy's both having pretty good seasons. That would have been a tough encounter, and 3-3 draw.
I think Kes would have backed themselves to win that game. The Kes have really done well this season. Very competitive at Aitken last weekend as well. So I think both teams will probably walk away a little bit disappointed. It's a derby that's got big history in it as well. So
absolutely,
Absolutely,
and a couple of others up here in Johannesburg. Parktown 2, St David's 2, just across the way. Garsfontein 4, Menlo Park 0. That Garsfontein boys team really are playing some really good hockey this season. And then a good win for the Midstream boys over Hoërskool Oefekruin, 4-0 in the end as well. So sort of wrapping up some of the fixtures from this part of the country. As I said earlier in the show, I made my debut at Klein Boys High on Friday night. I really wanted to have a look at Baker ball up close and personal. It's always one thing watching it on SuperSport schools, but quite nice to go and watch it live. And I hadn't really ever been to
Two Boys High. For the pancakes.
I did go, well, I certainly got the pancakes while I was there. So 2-0 to Polruus in the end. I'm not sure that they were playing their traditional style of hockey. But I thought, that, I was really impressed with what I saw from Rowan McLachlan's team there at Pol Boys. They really stuck to a very clear game plan.
I think they would be quite chuffed at that result if you think of what's been going on in the Polruus circles.
Absolutely.
Getting a 2-0 result. Absolutely. Really, very good result.
Interestingly, 2 years ago when they played on that AstroTurf as well, I think that AstroTurf's been in the heads of Polruus, because even with Senzel in the Polruus team, then they only won 1-0. So clearly it's a tough place to go and play. And some really good players, the ones that really impressed me, that Luan Bornman, I think we need to add him to our goalkeepers to watch for this year. He's been playing since grade 9. He had an outstanding game, and he's probably the reason it was 0-0 at half-time. Tian Liebenberg, also really impressive. There's quite a famous history of Liebenbergs in Pol from the 70s and 80s. I'd be really interested. Maybe there's someone out there who knows if he's part of that family setup.
Yes.
But really impressed. And another youngster, Ben Horoff, really impressed me on the evening. So lots to watch in that Pol Boys team. And as you say, probably a good result for them. Polruus will be a bit, they always take the win. They knew it was tough, so,
I think that Astro, having coached there, coached a team playing in a tournament there, that Astro is somewhat of a leveler. Polruus like to move the ball. They like to move the ball at pace, I think they would be happy going there and getting the result. I think it's always difficult going to Boys High when you're playing rugby or hockey.
They didn't quite have the same success. So Polruus, as one of the fathers at Polruus, Charlie Boucher, says to me, Polruus these days is a hockey school. They've gone to Pol. They've gone with the important result. The important result was the hockey result. What happened in the rugby the next day wasn't really that important.
You're going to make some enemies.
They won the main
game.
Yeah, sorry, Charles. But just talking about that Polruus team, we've spoken about Swanepoel, Peterson, Gous, Cardozo. It was really good to see them, in the flesh. They were, they really are as good as we thought they are. But one that we haven't perhaps spoken about is Logan Lakay, who plays at the back for them.
Yes.
I think he was the under-16 player of the tournament last year, and maybe they just haven't had that much to do defensively, but watching him on the night, he's got such a presence on the Astro that he really impressed me, and I think another one, along with Bornman, that we need to shift into our team to watch for the year.
Bakes always speaks about, and I'm going to forget his name, Arthur, who plays for the Belgian team.
Yes.
And he, he's a player that he loves to watch, and he's always put defenders in a position to grow into an Arthur. It's going to irritate me. You know exactly what I'm talking about, hey. But, it's that player, that free player, that pivot player that just moves the ball with such ease and composure. And I think that's what he's trying to get out of this Baker ball, and particularly out of his player of Logan.
It's just going to be so much, again, a team that we're going to love watching next year. We know a lot of them are back. And another one, young Charlie Boucher, his journey to full fitness is back, and it's going to be great to see him in 26 back as well. So, moving on from there, because there were a few others. Wynberg 4, Bishops 1.
Sure. Yeah. Tough season for Bishop so far, I think.
No, and I think they're in a building phase. Having a chat, I didn't realize Callum Anderson also comes from good hockey pedigree. His uncle Rob Anderson played a Masters hockey game against me yesterday and said, thanks for mentioning Callum on the show. But Callum's only in grade 10. They've got some really, really good talent. So I'm looking forward to watching them in the
they'll
future.
no doubt be back.
Yeah.
Perhaps the other outside, if there's a contender for the St. Albans, for team of the week or performance of the week, Paddle Filet 3, Polcham 2, it's got to be right up there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think what a result for Paul.
I watched this Paddle Filet team play at Hibbert Shield as well. Really exciting. I put one of their forwards, I forget his surname now, on our list. As
Milan or Roo?
Yeah, I'm not 100%
So the goals on the evening came from Milan, Roo and Gijana.
Okay.
That scored the goals for them. So
they're really exciting going forward.
Absolutely.
And I think they would have put Paul Jim under a lot of pressure, and a great result for them. And
Bomber's done a great job there.
Incredible
really,
result. Yeah. Some quick results from KZN, DHS 3, Westville 2. Good result for DHS, definitely sort of contending up there between them, probably in Hilton now left to see who's that sort of the main team.
Northwood, don't leave Northwood out.
Well, Northwood unfortunately have probably lost a few results early, which they perhaps shouldn't have. That's going to keep them out of that mix. But as you say, Northwood 8-1 over Glenwood. That's a statement result.
Absolutely. I mean, Glenwood have had a couple of close games. They were close with Hilton. Hilton won the game, but it seemed quite close in terms of the scoreline. But for Northwood to go and put 8 past them, that's a good result.
A hat-trick from Kyle White, so really impressive. Bridget, we're going into another incredible night. In fact, maybe in boys hockey, the biggest night of the year, Friday Night Lights, this coming Friday. We have?
Well, we've got Paul Roos versus Sachs, our personal 1 and 2s.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a real contest.
Yeah, can't wait to watch that.
It's going to be super exciting. It's 7:15 on Friday night is the first team game, but we're going from the under-16 game, second team game, and first team game.
So we're going to show 3 games from that encounter, and under-16 teams that have both done very, very well.
Very well.
I think, we'd love to see Jeppy play with those 2 this year, and, something we still want to talk to Hyundai about. We spoke to the Jeppy guys last week. I spoke to Michael Baker about it on Friday night, saying, wouldn't it be nice? And Michael said, get them to Cape Town. We'll take care of them from here. If we can get Jeppy, Sachs, and Paul Roos to play a weekend triangular, we'd love to make it happen. But this Friday night is the night, and I guess this is the night we decide which is South Africa's top boys hockey team for 2025.
Absolutely, and just before that, as independent schools, we've seen a lot of the girls' side. So if you watch some girls' hockey straight into the boys' mix, it's going to be a day of hockey. Look,
it's an incredible weekend of hockey, and it would be remiss of me not also to mention that it's reunion day at Maritzburg College. So Papes Astro on Saturday will, the home of hockey in South Africa, will be hosting that match against Kersney. But certainly all eyes will be on the Western Cape this weekend in boys hockey as we see Sachs and Paul Roos Gymnasium take each other on in their derby for the year. It's been another wonderful episode. Wonderful to have the Menlo Park coach and players join us in the studio. Wonderful to see both of you, and we'll be back next week.